Welcome back, listeners and viewers, actually. We are getting close to the finish of season 7, but we do have a few more episodes, so stick with us because we've got this episode today, we've got one more, and then we have our finale, which is our 80s top 10.
Top 10.
And that should be interesting considering what this season has been.
Have you started preparing your list?
I have, actually.
Yeah, me too.
We're going to do something different today. We're going to do a combined quick cut because we both went to the theaters recently and watched Final Destination Bloodlines. So if you've not seen a Final Destination film, there's a few of them out there. And there's actually Evolution of Horror just did a replay of their Evolution or of their Final Destination season, and they rated the films. So if that's your bag and you want to see which or hear which films are good or bad, that's probably something you should check out. But we went to the theater to see Final Destination Bloodlines.
Drinks all around. Family, you don't get to pick the one you get. Just gotta love the one you got.
I always knew this day would come.
I got it.
I don't think you got it.
I held him off for years.
Charlie, get up here.
He's a relentless son of a bitch. Won't stop till he finishes the job. Death is coming for our family.
IMDb 7.1, Rotten Tomatoes 92 and 88. The direction is Zach Lepivsky and Adam Stein. So we have Caitlin Santawana as Stephanie, Tio Briones as Charlie, Kaya Kilstedt as the mother. Tony Todd is the mortician, and it's his last appearance on film, I believe. So, plagued by a recurring nightmare, a college student returns home to find the one person who can break the cycle and save her family from the horrific fate that inevitably awaits them. So, what did you think?
I loved Final Destination Bloodlines. And it was not a movie I was really anticipating.
Me neither.
I had seen one or two of the originals. They were fine. I'm not like a big fan of the franchise or anything, but I was kind of interested in it because it was one of the more notable ones getting attention. And you were just like, hey, do you want to go see Final Destination? I was like, sure. But I wasn't really anticipating it.
No, me neither. And you know what? For me, it was exactly the same. It was a whim. It was like, oh, this playing. I should go see it.
Yeah. But I don't know if you could do a Final Destination film any better than what they did.
100%.
Like, that's exactly what I want from a Final Destination film. It was so fun.
Yeah.
So enjoyable. Really tense. And yeah, I could not recommend this movie more. Not to hype it up too much, but I really liked it. I didn't anticipate loving it as much as I did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. And actually, I won't say anything about it. I'll just say that the opening sequence I had a visceral reaction to the opening sequence, and that doesn't happen very often. So that, in my opinion, makes it worth the price of admission just for that. But it's what I was not a fan, but I liked the first Final Destination. It was, it was okay. But this one, I think the difference is the original Final Destination, I think, is 2000. And right around that late 90s, early 2000s, horror movies weren't doing very well.
It wasn't a really bright period.
Yeah. I mean, I liked the concept in the original, but like some of the writing was kind of cheesy. Some of the scenarios were a little bit unbelievable. Like there's a scene in the first one where one of the teenagers or whatever is getting hung in the shower by a clothesline. And it's like, okay, that's not even possible.
Totally.
Number one, it's not possible to hold his weight. But number two, he doesn't even like struggle. The thing just wraps around his neck. And anyway, all that to say, this one is better written, better performed, incredible effects. And
really plays with audience expectations.
Absolutely.
Which I really appreciated. I think I said to you at the end, I'm like, that was better than it had any right to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I hope that they go out on this note. And
without doing another one?
Without doing another one. And say, yes, we nailed it as a closure for the franchise. I'm not convinced that that's what they'll do, because normally they don't do that.
I think
kind
it's
of
doing
stuff.
pretty well. So
Yeah.
of course. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And would you agree? Like, it felt very accessible as well.
Absolutely.
Like, it's a very fun film. So if you have a significant other who's a bit wary of horror, I think you could actually go to this together. And
Yeah, I think so.
there's some gore, but it's not scary.
No, it's not scary
more
at all.
Tense.
Yeah. It's more, I would describe it more like a thriller than a horror.
Yeah.
But definitely, if you can get out to see it in the theaters in the next week or so, that I think you would enjoy it as a theater experience. I think it's worth seeing in the theaters.
Absolutely.
And I think it lives up to the original concept. So they lost their way in 5 or 6 films, but this one really harkened back to the original and really nailed it.
And they managed to do something a little unique with it as well, and explore new territory for that franchise. So yeah, it just fires on all cylinders. So
Yeah.
Final Destination Bloodlines.
There you go.
2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up from both of us. So there you go.
Feature presentation.
So this one, I think, this was my pick.
Yeah, your pick, yeah.
So this is Videodrome from 1983.
Come to me. Don't keep me waiting. Please.
Videodrome.
It is a body horror science fiction thriller. It's an hour and a half, roughly 87 minutes. It was rated R when it was released, 7.2 on IMDb, and 83 and 80 for critics and audience.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there would be more disparity there.
Yeah.
But okay.
That surprised me a little bit too. The director is David Cronenberg. I don't know if you're a Cronenberg fan, but there's lots of Cronenberg out there. This, I did some. Let me finish my intro. Cast is James Woods as Max Wren, Debbie Harry as Nikki Brand, Sonia Smits from Street Legal, a Canadian television show, as Bianca Oblivion. Okay, so basically the summary is this. A programmer at a Toronto TV station that specializes in adult entertainment searches for the producers of a dangerous and bizarre podcast. So I have a bunch of fun facts that I'd like to throw in from time to time, but I won't go through the whole list. But I think I'm going to start with, would you watch Videodrome? Not knowing the
like the actual thing?
Yeah. Like, would you, so that when, early on in the film, when he's seeing things on the TV in the broadcast, would you tune into Videodrome?
So this is a bigger conversation. So we are operating under the assumption, though, that it's not real, right?
Of course. Yeah.
So for me, if I thought it was not real, then I think I would.
Okay. What if you thought it was real? What if you thought or you weren't sure?
So this is this is a topic I was hoping to broach at some point today, but like, I'm someone who can watch anything that's like a horror film. Like, I've watched, I think, the most extreme. Yeah. We can talk about some of the films that are pretty well known in the horror community as like, a Serbian film or
Martyrs.
Yeah. So I can watch those and that's fine. But like, if there's like an Al-Qaeda like beheading video, like I can't click on that and watch that. And it brought me to, I want to explore this idea where when he's being interviewed, James Wood?
Yes.
And she says like desensitization and dehumanization. I feel like there's a distinction that you have to make between those two things.
Yeah.
Because I think you can be desensitized without being dehumanized. And I wonder if this film is putting those two things together. So I would not watch Videodrome, I don't think, if I thought it was like a snuff film. Yeah. But I think I could watch it if I thought it was production.
Yeah.
How about you?
I mean, I raised that question because they do ask the question in the film, like, why did you watch this? Why would you watch this? Because you notice in the film that that some of the people aren't watching, but they're asking other people to watch, right? So Yeah, so I think I feel along the same lines. If I knew it was fiction, I wouldn't have an issue with it, or less of an issue. If I knew it was real, I don't know that I would watch it. I'm not drawn to graphic reality, like, car wrecks. And actually, I cringe sometimes on Facebook or Instagram because I watch a lot of motorcycle videos. And there's a lot of accident postings.
Yeah.
And some of them are some of them, they don't even give you a trigger warning. And I'm not triggered by it, but it's like, I didn't need to see that.
Yeah. I don't like seeing things that are real. And even like X or Twitter recently has like got rid of all their censored. So you can be scrolling and all of a sudden, and that was not the case before.
No.
And does it matter to you as well if it was consensual or non-consensual? Because they play with that a little bit too in James Woods' relationship with, what's the character's name?
Nikki Brand.
That's right.
Yeah.
Where she wants to do things that are pretty edgy, but she wants it versus someone who maybe it's against their will, which I think matters as well.
Yeah. I mean, so if it was real, but it was non-consensual,
right?
Is that what you're saying? Yeah. I never say never. I can't imagine I would watch that because I'm not interested in seeing someone raped, basically. Yeah. That doesn't interest me. I mean, and again, have I seen that on film? Many times, but I'm desensitized to it.
Yeah.
But I still, if I thought it was real, I would feel like that's a real human being. I can't watch them, be abused in this way.
Yeah. Like I find it interesting analyzing my own psyche that I can watch the most extreme things in a horror movie. Yeah. But as soon as it's something even moderately horrific, and if it's real, I can't handle it.
Yeah, me too.
So even though the visual stimuli, it can be the same, but knowing what's behind it is important, and we can make that distinction.
And if you're a Cronenberg fan, I mean, I am. I haven't seen all his films, but I've seen quite a few. This is part of a loose trilogy. Videodrome was the first, and then there's Existenz in 1999, and Crimes of the Future in 2022.
Right.
Basically dealing with a dystopian society.
I've seen Crimes of the Future, but I've not seen the other one.
I'm the opposite. I've seen Existenz.
Okay.
But so it's Jennifer Jason Leigh, and I'm not going to remember his name. Darn it. British actor who has been in a lot of period pieces.
That could be
I know. Sorry, that could be a long. That's a stupid way to go about it. Anyway, I can't remember the actor's name. It was really interesting. I found it to be kind of like not The Matrix, but have you seen Johnny Mnemonic?
Yes, but like many years. I don't remember much about it, but yes, I have.
So it's it reminded me of that one because it's kind of like technology and people running from the law and all the rest of it. But I found it to be quite good. I'd like to see.
Johnny Mnemonic?
No, I've seen Johnny Mnemonic.
I'm
talking about this one, Existenz.
Existenz. Okay.
So I'd like to see all three of them in a row, but I don't know if I could handle 3 Cronenberg films back to back.
Yeah, I think I appreciate this film maybe more than I enjoyed it on like a entertainment level. Like I don't know if I would be dying to like go back and watch this again.
Yeah.
But it's super interesting, and like this movie is more relevant now than it was in 1983.
Absolutely.
And that's pretty commendable from Cronenberg.
Yeah.
Like he didn't know about cell phones. And when you look at the themes this movie's exploring, you look at our world now, like arguably this is like way more relevant now.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive and cool.
Yeah.
So I appreciated the debate this is bringing up and the issues on a philosophical level. Did you enjoy it on both levels, or would you think of it as just an entertaining, just as a film to watch?
That's a good question because I've watched this many times since the 80s.
Okay.
And I guess I do. If I've watched it that many times, I do enjoy it. But I think what I'm enjoying the most is the intellectual stimulation that Cronenberg offers you,
Agreed.
right? Because he's constantly. Not just the body horror, because he's famous for his body horror, and he's got a lot of sex in his films, and usually unconventional.
Yes.
Right? So I just find, because he's interested in psychology and sexuality and how your body can betray you and those kinds of things, I find his films fascinating because yes, they're visually interesting and he's a wonderful director, but it's the story and the ideas and the concepts that really grab me.
Have you seen like Crash or Naked Lunch?
I have seen Naked Lunch. Okay. Crash is on my list.
Yeah.
There's a few, I looked at his filmography and it was like, oh, I didn't know that was Cronenberg and that was Cronenberg.
Yeah. Eastern Promises. And he did some other ones that were.
And that one was fantastic.
History of Violence?
History of Violence.
Yeah. Those I really liked.
Me too.
Those aren't body horror.
No, not at all. No, they're straight up kind of thriller.
And I think you and I think we've had this conversation before. I wouldn't say like body horror is my favorite subgenre of horror, though.
No,
like
I'm not necessarily interested in things that squish and it's kind of.
I appreciate the practicals, which were very good by Rick Baker, but I tend to have mixed experiences with body horror films. Yeah.
Now, have you gone back and watched any of his stuff from the 70s, like The Brood or Rabid, which was remade a couple years ago?
No, I haven't seen either of those. So I've seen a good handful of Cronenberg films, but I'm certainly not a completionist. So
it's really interesting. I mean, digging into his history, if you look at his early films, I even think on this one, I noticed the credits at the end. There's the Ontario Film Board has, given money because it's a grant.
They heavily subsidized quite a few films during this time period, is my understanding, including this one.
Especially in the earlier films, like mid 70s, late 70s.
Some we've done, Bloody Valentine.
Oh yeah, no. So yeah, you're right. They've done many films, but I was thinking about Cronenberg in particular, and there was quite a bit of controversy over some of his films getting public funding. Yeah, and so I only mention it for that reason, but
because of the controversial.
Yeah. Now, you may have come across something different. My research into snuff films is urban legend. Like they don't exist.
Right. Okay.
And it was curiosity mostly because it comes back to that question of why would you watch this? If you knew that was real, why would you tune in?
Yeah.
And what got me interested initially was a later film than this is Nicolas Cage's 8mm.
Yeah. I was thinking about that film today in preparing for this.
Yeah. And it's so, and of course I wanted to mention Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
But yeah, I just feel like the idea has some incredible staying power with society. There's lots of people who still believe that that's real, and I don't know, maybe they are. But
now there are. I mean, I guess what's your definition of a?
Okay, so
like in the modern era with cell phones, and if you're taking international and areas of conflict in certain countries, like I think there's many videos of people being killed on camera, obviously.
Yes, and I don't disagree with that. I think my definition of a snuff film is that it is made specifically for people to watch.
For entertainment.
For entertainment and sexual gratification, typically, right? So anyway, I just thought that was really interesting. And there have been a few films over the years that touch on that subject. He never says it in the film, I don't think, or does
that's what it evokes. Like
exactly, yeah.
I forget if they explicitly use that term.
I can't remember either because I'm thinking about the lab, the techie guy, and James Woods, and I can't remember if either one of them use that.
But there's a woman
term.
like a dungeon with these guys, and like it's evocative of that idea.
100%.
Although he is. At least the James Woods character talks as if it's not real.
Yes. Or he can't believe that it would be real. Right.
I think they're operating as if they think this is like being produced somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah. Now there were 3 endings shot for this film. I don't know if there are the alternate endings available.
Now we're doing non-spoilers to start, just if you're going to jump into endings.
No, I'm not talking about the end. Like I'm not giving details. I'm just saying, yeah, you're right. I wouldn't spoil it.
Okay.
All I wanted to say was that there were 3 endings shot, and the one that ended up in the cut that we watched, that was James Woods' pick.
Oh, cool.
For an ending. So, I just thought like interesting trivia, right?
I read that he was really into like tech, and he'd bring his computer to set, and him and Cronenberg would they were both tech nerds. So I think he really got into like the theme and the philosophy behind this as well. So I think he was pretty involved. Because
I had a little note to myself. It's like, whatever happened to James Woods?
He was in that John Carpenter, The Vampires film.
He was.
That's one of the last ones I remember.
And then apparently he did a lot of voice work in the last 20 or 25
That's
years.
That's true. Yeah. He's got a distinct voice.
Yeah. And he's done cartoons and stuff. But I had to So, fun fact about James Woods, he's quite a controversial. He has controversial views politically, and
this came up a few weeks ago. In another context.
He claims, and I don't know if you came across this. He claims that he was on a flight with 4 of the terrorists before 9/11 and reported it to the FBI and was interviewed by the FBI. Now, of course, no one can corroborate that because the FBI is not going to say, "Yeah, of course we." And if that's actually true, and they drop the ball on that information, that's even worse, right?
My understanding is they did know quite a bit.
Me too.
Because there was footage of like Condoleezza Rice from before 9, and I would say neither of us would fall into the 9/11 conspiracy camp. No, but there's like actual footage, which is verified and dated before that, them talking about this idea of like terrorists taking a plane and flying into the World Trade Center as like an option. So they, I think, had some idea that it was a possibility.
I mean, not to go down that rabbit hole.
That's a big rabbit hole.
I don't think they took that intel very seriously, unfortunately.
So I guess to your point, I could believe that James Woods did that and maybe they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, I can believe it. That is a possibility. It just sounds to me like maybe he's a little bit out there.
Which is possible too.
In general, right?
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention, because I grew up just outside of Toronto, and I watched a lot of City TV, which is what this is based on, basically. And Moses Neimer was the head of City TV, and they were a UHF station like this.
Yeah. So
they basically brought in airwaves and broadcast them. And they started Much Music. City TV was big in Toronto.
Have you seen Weird Al's UHF? Weird Al,
I haven't. I've seen clips, but I haven't seen the film. And the other thing, I mean, and I like these about Canadian films because I recognize actors, and I also recognize. I don't know if you picked up on I think it's the opening scene with the streetcar, and you can see. I don't know if you can see, but I recognize it right away as TTC.
Oh, I didn't notice that,
because those streetcars are pretty iconic in Toronto, and the color and the logo and stuff is pretty iconic. So it's like, I noticed that right away.
In preparing for this, did you read the parallels with the inspiration for like Marshall McLuhan and The Medium is the Message?
Exactly.
Was that something you were aware of when you would have watched this the first time?
Not the first time.
Okay.
I would say,
because I guess the father character is actually based on and he worked at U of T. Marshall McLuhan was a professor. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't until, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago that I started really connecting McLuhan's teachings. I mean, I haven't done any readings. Everything that I've come across has either been like a documentary or I've heard something. But I was interested to find out that he actually, and I don't know what he said that brings us to this, but some people have said that he actually predicted, not exactly as it is, but the World Wide Web, that we would have these connections, globally.
I read a quote from him, which did kind of imply something similar. Yeah.
And apparently he coined the term global village, which I didn't know either. And that could be mistaken, but that's what I came across.
No, I think I've heard that as well. Yeah.
Now, I know you were you were just born, right? The year this came out.
I was born 1983, so I did not see this in theaters.
So, but did you notice, like, you wouldn't have been aware of these trends, but I just love like 80s stuff. And he's got a skinny leather tie, which I had one, so I recognized it. The shoulder pads, the makeup. And I thought you might have noticed this. Did you notice the Atari controllers on top of his television?
I got to play that back in the day.
That was pretty cool, actually. I wasn't a gamer, but we couldn't, my parents couldn't afford Atari, which was higher priced than Intellivision.
Right.
So we got an Intellivision, which was fair. Like, my brother played it a lot and I played it a little bit. I liked some of the games, but
it's like Space Invaders or Pong or
I mean, classics. Intellivision wasn't really cool. Okay. You had to have Atari to be cool. And so no surprise, I wasn't cool. Go ahead.
I found it funny though, like in this film, and this came up as well in Creepshow with that one short with Leslie Nielsen. Yeah. When it's all about technology, but you're watching it in 2025, a film that took place in 1983. Yeah. So it's meant to feel very high tech at the time, but now looks so archaic. Yeah. It's almost laughable. I was thinking of when he gets in the car and they have like the TV screen and the seat in front of
Yes.
them with all these like old school, like little knob dials that used
100%.
to change the channel, which is so archaic now, but at the time would have been like, oh my God, that's crazy. So that part maybe doesn't hold up, but man, the themes hold up more than ever. And that's, I think, what makes this film really cool.
Yeah. And I think unlike Creepshow, which I think is completely valid, and it is for this film too, but the ideas and the concepts allow you to move past that, right?
It's more just kind of a chuckle film.
Totally.
So what impact did this have for you? And like Cronenberg's pretty out there, and I think he was especially out there at the time. So was it pretty jarring seeing a Cronenberg film in the 80s?
I was trying to remember, and I'm having a memory which at my age could be mistaken, that I actually
or is that a hallucination?
Saw this in theaters.
Oh, wow.
But I'm trying to figure out how I would have done that because, well, no, I wouldn't be quite legal age, but I would have been 17. So it's possible that I never got carded that I remember. I'm going into a movie. I've been carded at bars when I was young, but never a movie. So for me, it was like, and I think I'm remembering it because I remember how that the television scenes being so, I don't know, just so grand on the big screen, right?
So do you think that would have made you into Cronenberg fan at the time?
I I wouldn't have called myself a fan.
No, okay.
I thought, his movies were like weird and quirky, I thought, but I didn't have enough either education or understanding to really connect with his ideas and his themes. And I think, I don't want to say that his movies are wasted on young people, but I think you have to have a certain amount of life experience to appreciate what he's offering you in the film.
And you can't just go watch it like you'd watch a movie. Like this is almost more of an academic exercise than it is like entertainment.
And that's not to turn you off from watching it because I think it's worth a watch. But just know that it's not Final Destination, right?
No.
It's not a fun ride. It's asking you to think. It's requiring you. We've done a few of these that you have to engage with the material to really get anything out of it.
And Cronenberg seems to use film as a medium to explore philosophical ideas. He's not necessarily there. I think the ideas are first and the entertainment is second, probably.
Yeah.
But that's why I was expecting maybe more of a discrepancy in the Rotten Tomato scores between the critics and the audience. So 80, 83, I thought it would be like 90 critic score, but like 50 maybe the audience score. I mean, it's fairly accessible. I was really into it actually the first half. And then when it starts to go off the rails a little bit, as Cronenberg tends to do, or as these films tend to do, I was less entertained, but I still was really engaged.
That's fair. Yeah. The first half I would say is more entertaining when they're doing the setup and they're laying the groundwork.
Yeah.
And then once you're there, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, did you, because I'm only doing this because we've talked about music every time. I actually don't have any complaints because I didn't notice anything. It was completely forgettable for me.
I agree.
And unfortunately for Howard Shore, who's the composer and a friend of Cronenberg, I didn't remember anything that he composed. So,
Howard Shore did the soundtracks for Lord of the Rings films.
Oh, interesting.
And that's one of my favorite soundtracks ever. So I actually love Howard Shore. But in this case, I did not find it did.
In this case, it was
not the Lord of the Rings soundtrack in this case.
I don't know if were you ever a Blondie fan?
No, I've heard, when I looked this up, like I'd heard the name Blondie. I couldn't name a single song, or I don't even know what their music sounds like.
So,
did they put any of their music in the film?
They didn't.
No, okay.
No. Well, not that I noticed anyway.
Or did she do music after this?
No.
Or before?
It would have been, and it would have been right around this time. Blondie was still a thing when she did this film, but she was part of the CBGB's New York Andy Warhol scene in the late 70s. And of course, there were a lot of transitional bands like punk. They weren't hard rock. They weren't, like the Pretenders were kind of like that.
Okay, yep.
And but Debbie Harry was always this, I don't know, I'm trying to think back as a 13-year-old. I was always like, oh, Debbie Harry. But she was always kind of like that edgy, sexy but not sexual kind of character. And I don't know what she's like in real life. It just seemed to me that she played that character, and she plays a similar character.
I was going to say that's
film.
pretty consistent with.
So like
arguably more sexual in this one, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. And I thought that it was really interesting. It was a really interesting choice for casting because I thought she was, I don't know how much acting she had to do because that was her persona
That's interesting.
in the band, right? And I thought she was really good. Like I thought she was sexy and edgy. And she's got a really really good bedroom voice.
Yeah.
And
kind of mysterious too. I really liked her as well. Yeah. I was into like their relationship with each other. I found that to be almost the most engaging part of the film. So yeah, I agree with you.
And well, I'll get into that maybe in spoilers. What did you think about James Woods?
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same.
He didn't blow me away.
No.
But he did a good job. Like he was fine.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have ever said, I've seen him in quite a few movies. I wouldn't be like, I'm a James Woods fan.
Yeah. I mean,
he has sort of like a very distinct look.
Yes, he does.
Kind of like Willem Dafoe or Steve Buscemi or something. Like he just has like that kind of.
Those are interesting comparisons. I think you're bang on there.
Yeah, it's almost like when you're in touristy areas and people are doing the sort of like cartoon caricature faces. I feel like James Woods has like a perfect face for those kind of cartoons. Yeah. So he's very distinct and memorable, I feel like, for his look. But he was good. Yeah.
Yeah, that was what I said. I'm not a huge fan, but I think he did a really good job in this one. And like for me, he often plays these kind of sleazy characters, and he pulls that off really well here because the idea of an owner of a TV studio trying to get the next big thing and trying to break into the market and that was totally believable to me.
Me too.
What I wondered, just coming back to this idea of city TV, I wondered, and I didn't come across this in any of my reading, if they filmed in city TV buildings, or maybe it was CBC buildings downtown Toronto.
I could definitely see that, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, me neither. You already mentioned Oblivion was based on Marshall McLuhan, but I thought he was rather amusing. He wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I just found his what was his line? TV is reality, and reality is less than TV. I just found those kind of quips, pretty funny. And interesting, but
what was the ad at the beginning? Like the TV you bring to bed with you or something? It's got the thing with the TV. I thought that was, when you look at cell phones now, you're like, yeah, that's actually pretty accurate.
You've just got the size is different, but the concept's exactly the same. You're bringing your entertainment to bed with you, right?
Yeah. And now with we can get all the different examples, but with Elon Musk and like Neuralink, so the idea that you can actually like use your brain to control technology, like we're really meshing the technology and flesh, like actually.
And what's Kurt Vile or Vile? What's the we're coming to the he's got a term for it, and he's it's this idea of technology and human beings basically combining.
Merging,
It's called the something, and that's gonna bug me now. So I'm gonna have to look it up.
Have you seen this? Like it went viral. It was like a kind of creepy AI video that showed. They asked show the evolution of human beings, and it starts with like, I don't know, like a crustacean, and moves up, evolves into like a chimp, and then evolves into humans. Okay. But then as it evolves past humans, we end up in the end like completely merging with technology, where we're basically like cyborg to the point where we're actually almost like more technology than human.
Right.
And that's what an AI did. And it's kind of an eerie video. Okay, maybe I could put the link in the description.
I have to do this because it's going to bug me to no end.
I found it funny too. When he puts on the headset, that kind of VR headset thing, as someone who owns an Oculus Quest, just being like, totally. The difference between what this would have looked like in 1983 to what we actually have now, or Google Glass, or what's the Apple one? Apple Vision?
Apple Vision, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, even like...
I had it there. Sorry, go ahead.
You can think about that. Well, like pacemakers or... people with artificial limbs, like as time goes on, we are definitely merging more with technology, and it seems like we're knocking on the door of,
and even things like not just prosthetics, but I have a friend who has a hearing aid. I didn't even know he had one because it's so tiny, and it actually goes to his iPhone, and he can control the volume of his hearing aid with his iPhone. So if he's in a concert, he can turn it down if it's really loud, or if he's in a loud room and he's having a conversation, he can turn it up so he can hear them.
Yeah.
It's like really
a friend of mine just got like the glasses where you have the interface on the inside.
Oh, yeah.
And then once you start integrating AI into that, like someone was saying in 10 years, you'll like have your glasses and you'll have the little screen on the inside. And then if you're like in a job interview, like AI will just like generate responses for you and you can just read off the little screen in your glasses. So like integrating AI into your like everyday interface.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. And so for Cronenberg to be like exploring these ideas in 1983, like is pretty cool.
Yeah, he was way ahead of his time.
Way ahead,
in terms of exploring those ideas. And there was, I just want to, because you mentioned the whole glasses thing. When I was shopping for a car a couple of years ago, I was looking at a Mitsubishi, and it had a heads-up display on the windshield.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a little, well, at least as far as I understand it, on that model of car, it was a little projector in the dashboard that projected it onto the.
Yes.
I drove it. I test drove it, and then I said to the guy, "It's too distracting. I couldn't do it."
Distracting.
I'm so used to having clear vision, through the windshield. Having a bunch of information on there, like, really threw me for a loop. I imagine if you're younger, that may not faze you as much. But
so you could watch like Winnie the Pooh, Blood is Honey, like on your windshield while you're driving around. Yeah, that sounds great.
Anyway, sorry to get off on a thing there, but
yeah, this is such a rich. I mean, you could talk for, you could do a whole course on this film almost.
Totally.
So it's hard to know like how deep do you go and where do you go with this one. But
do you think this is a spoiler? That little.
Well, we could just to be safe, I guess, I guess spoilers. And I think we've kind of. Yeah,
we've been going for half an hour. We can get into spoilers because there's a bunch of stuff I'm sure we both want to talk about.
Yeah, but I think we hit at least the main things. Practicals were really good. Music was forgettable. Performances were decent.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't love his movies from like just a film going. It's, as you said, the intellectual stimulation, which I think makes it the best. Everything is good.
Yeah, I mean, it's the craft is well done. There's no question. In this case, I mean, the one thing I wanted to mention was and you mentioned it off the beginning, like the practicals. A few of them looked a little rubbery, kind of like Hellraiser.
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
And it's a similar time frame.
But I'm guessing at the time they were probably pretty cutting edge. I think, and Rick Baker was so good for doing the transformation from American Werewolf in London, which we already talked about.
And even that one looks a little rubbery, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just the material they had at the time, right? It's what they could do.
And I'll take rubbery over bad CG. So
absolutely. Yeah.
So do you recommend Videodrome to our audience?
I do, actually. I do, if only for this idea of Cronenberg exploring these ideas 40, 50 years before, they're even in public consciousness.
Yeah.
So yeah, I give it a thumbs up for sure.
Yeah, I do as well. It gets a little out there and avant-garde, but it's not like a Lynch film or anything. So
yeah, exactly.
I think it's accessible enough that even if you're not into those really cerebral avant-garde films, art house films, it's still pretty accessible. It has like a narrative arc that's pretty easy to follow. But the richness of the philosophical ideas, I think, is really cool.
Yeah, and I think you hit it earlier too, that this is a far more accessible film than for example, I have yet to finish. I'm doing really well with my memory tonight. What's the one he's done with the twins? You obviously not seen it. You've got two twin doctors. They're gynecologists.
Oh, I don't think I've seen it.
Shoot. I'm sorry. Anyway, I haven't finished that one because I just couldn't get into it. And it's got Jeremy Irons.
Oh yeah, okay.
In it, and
the Cronenberg one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Which one I mean?
Scanners.
No.
Start with an S.
I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, it's Jeremy Irons playing both twins.
Yeah.
And Geneviève Bujold is in it. I just craft is good, performances are good, and he is exploring ideas again, but it didn't connect with me.
Yeah, I find I can do a Cronenberg film like maybe once a year.
Yeah, for sure.
And I remember in high school, there in Canada, there's a channel called Showcase.
Yes.
And they had a lot of these weird films. So I remember like Crash was on there once.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, this looks kind of scandalous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is weird. I wasn't in the mental state to do that. And like Naked Lunch and stuff was on there.
Yeah.
So they played a lot of Cronenberg stuff. I think it was Canadian channel, and they had to show so much Canadian. Like Canadian content. So they had a lot of like Cronenberg. It was kind of an edgier channel. So, anyways,
so we're gonna do what? So what's your? Are you saying yes then?
Yeah. I don't know if everyone will love it, but I think it's worth trying.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go into spoilers.
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 Oh, I just had an upcoming thing spoiled for me.
Okay, so I wanted to the question I had for you was I felt like it was really interesting that we'd just done Hellraiser.
I had the same
because
thought.
this is like, you know, they're mixing S&M and B&D and all this kind of stuff, and I just found it was really interesting. I also really liked, and because Cronenberg's been a victim of some of this, I really like how he satirizes the moral majority, and the idea that, you know, these ideas are okay or these actions are okay, but these ones aren't.
Yeah. And people who say that they're against these privately are often actually really into these types of things. So behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, anyway, I was going to say there was a political thing that one of congressmen in the States who was very, you know, against.
There's so many examples.
Yeah. And then he's found out to be, getting together with young boys and stuff. It's just like, yeah. Anyway,
we could talk about the Catholic Church for the next hour, but let's not do that. Let's move on.
I also like the idea, I mentioned this earlier, the idea that those who are in control, because we avoided this pretty successfully, but we're in spoilers. So the idea is that Videodrome is a broadcast that is messing with people's minds. And it's kind of like a mind control sort of takeover thing. So the people who are behind that, you never see them watching the film or watching the broadcast or engaging with it.
Yeah.
And it just reminded me of Scarface, where he says, you know, never try your own supply. Yeah. And it's just like, that's exactly what these guys.
Because the idea is that anyone who's morally reprehensible enough to watch this needs to be purged from society. Yeah. That's a neat idea.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating, right? Yeah. And we mentioned this too. It's still arguably more relevant now and more disturbing than it would have been then, because I think some of that, like, for example, it is classed as, horror science fiction.
Yeah.
In the day, it was science fiction-y. There was all this technology and stuff. That's not science fiction anymore.
No, I know. That's what's crazy about it. Yeah.
And I mean, it's laughable the size of that thing he's got on his head when they're trying to extract his memories or something, or his dreams, or anyway, something. And he's got this huge, like, almost like the alien shape head, right? And it's got this red glowing light on the top. Now, did you come across in your reading, there was at least 2 articles that I came across suggested that after that scene with the thing on his head, everything else is hallucination. It's all in his head.
Yeah, films where you have an unreliable narrator, I do always find a little bit annoying. I mean, not annoying, but it's just, you can no longer trust whether you're seeing, whether is this in his head, is this not, is some of it, is none of it, and they're pretty ambiguous about it. So, yeah, I'm aware that, which makes sense, right? Because he puts it on.
Yeah.
You go into, and then it kind of like fades into this new reality, and then it never goes back.
Nope.
And yeah, so I think you can interpret it in a bunch of different ways.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you think that's the case?
I struggled with it.
Yeah,
like when I read that, I'm like, oh, that wasn't my take on it. And then I went back and watched a little bit more. Like I went back to that scene and I'm like, okay. It's kind of like,
doesn't he go from that scene to like, then he wakes up in his bed?
Yes.
Like when he goes from being in that area to then being back in his normal life.
And then, his normal life and then his life continues. So did they do what they needed to do and then dropped him off because he blacked out or whatever in this? So it is very ambiguous about what it is.
It's probably impossible to say because I'm guessing there is just no correct answer. It's just how you want to interpret it.
And if some of the things that happen earlier in the film, like the TV breathing and her lips coming out of the TV and stuff, if that hadn't have happened earlier in the film, if it was only the stuff that happened after the headset, I would say, yes, you're right. It's hallucination.
But we have examples before that where he was, So the idea is that when you watch Videodrome, it makes you hallucinate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So is it possible then, because he watched it the first time at the TV station and then it's already working on his brain.
Yeah.
And so he's starting to have these little episodes, right?
It's not quite the same, but you and I both have an Oculus Quest.
Yes.
They don't sponsor this show, but we're just going to talk about it.
Yes.
I was shocked. I'm sure many people in our audience have played this or used this, but it's amazing when you put it on how much it tricks your brain.
It's unbelievable.
Like I was not prepared for how immersive it could be. And it kind of is like, it's not the exact same because you're got a headset on, but the idea of like hallucinating and reality being mixed with it tricks your physiological senses. Like when you're on the roller coaster,
Yep.
you're not moving, you're in a chair.
Totally.
But when you're going down, like it tricks your brain into thinking that, and you do get a physiological response. So we're pretty close to a lot of these ideas that are being explored in this film.
Like with my Oculus, I can't remember the name of the game because I can't remember anything apparently tonight. But one of the horror games that I play, you're actually going through like a haunted house sort of thing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of jump scares and things, but there's also this part of the game where you have to walk across beams.
Yeah.
And you're standing on solid ground, and yet you're still like trying to walk across, and you're worried about falling or like losing your step or whatever. And it's completely ridiculous. And intellectually, that that's not real, but your body doesn't. It's telling you, no, because my eyes are seeing, your body's reacting, even though your mind's saying, don't be an idiot. This is not real.
Yeah.
It's a real,
and if you listen to like Sam Harris very much,
I've listened to a bit, but not a lot.
So his thing is like, he's a psychologist, but he started like experimenting with hallucinogens to kind of like, for him, it was like awakening of like unlocking the potential in our brain, and that our brain is capable of doing things that we don't experience in our day to day, yet it does have that potential. And instead of being a drug addict, he uses meditation as a way to like try and get to some of those places.
Yeah.
So again, it's the idea that in this case with Videodrome, that the idea of hallucination and not knowing what's real or not real, and maybe using technology in this case to evoke that same sensation. It's super interesting as well. And that's very possible. Like in like my psychology videos I've shown in class where they cut someone's skull open and then they're using like electrochemical signals. When they hit different parts of the brain, it can make you like say something or move your arm or pee your pants. And like, so it's not hard to imagine some kind of implant or device where and then, it's a cool film. And
there's things that, I mean, I know there's, I think it's called binaural, but there's sound that's supposed to help you learn or help you relax or whatever. And I've tried that. I've also tried, there's an app called Luminate, and it basically is using your flashlight on your camera. And don't ever open your eyes. You turn the flashlight towards you and you close your eyes, and then there's all these flashing lights.
Oh, crazy.
And it's a little bit like...
What's the point?
Well, the idea is that it's supposed to alter your state and kind of get you into not necessarily the same state you'd get with drugs. But the idea is to supposedly, I don't know what's this based on, but if you want to... lose weight, or you want to stop smoking, or you want to stop, then there's kind of a different flash.
Oh, wow.
Like the lights are different depending on which program you choose, but it's really, really interesting.
Or if you want to have an epileptic seizure.
Exactly. I mean, I can't say that I've felt any changes as a result of it. I use it as a way to wind down at the end of the day.
Oh, I'd be curious to try this.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Now, I have one question. It's kind of big one, like the who would watch this? And I think you will be interested in this. So is watching violence and sex an outlet, or is it an encouragement to do those things?
Yeah, I've got a strong opinion on this. I would say outlet.
Yeah.
So when that debate was raised, when she's having that thing, I'm sorry, I don't like Grand Theft Auto, which is considered to be like the most depraved, violent, horrible video game of all time. Shout out to my friend Brett, who likes this game a lot. And I'm not a big fan of the game necessarily myself, but it's the highest selling video game in all of history. And you spend your time running over people in the streets, and like everyone knows the stories of what, and that just doesn't materialize into anything. And like to your, like you and I spend a good portion of our life watching the most horrible films ever made. And I would say you and I are like fairly sensitive, caring people who have zero desire to go out and do any of it. Like I can watch a movie and it has zero impact on me wanting to do that. I think people do that because they've been abused or they've experienced trauma or there's something cognitive happening in their brain that makes them do those things. And if you just look at human history, like we were looking at traveling to Germany, and they have like this like torture museum showing all the horrific torture instruments that have been used forever. And they didn't have TV then. They didn't have violent video games. And
or books or anything.
Arguably, we're probably more evolved morally than we, like, you know, putting people in the Coliseum and having them murdered by lions. And
for entertainment.
Totally. So, yeah, I am in no way... I very much fall on the side of the debate that those things do not cause people to go do things.
No. It's whatever aberrant behavior you have going on in your head, that's what's causing you to do it, not a Marilyn Manson song or a Stephen King book or this movie or whatever.
Like someone who's already in a state where they're maybe willing to do something like that. Maybe they're inspired by something they see. So they're already in a place where they're going to go to kill people. And maybe they see something, a film that inspires them to do that particular thing. But I don't think you take a normal human being and show them something horrific and suddenly they go do that.
I mean,
and we know that's not true.
In the early 80s and later on in the 80s, of course, you had Al Gore and Tipper Gore. And Tipper Gore was the one who was leading the moral majority with the explicit lyrics labels and all that kind of stuff. And Stephen King he is on the same side that we are. He doesn't believe that watching, listening, reading anything is going to make you perform a behavior. But what's interesting to me, I think it's called The Long Walk, but it might be a different one. He wrote as Richard Bachman. He had a pen name because he was writing so much that they felt he would flood the market if he put out all his books.
Yeah.
So even when he had big selling books like The Shining and Salem's Lot and whatever, he had a bunch of books also on the bookshelf as Richard Bachman.
Yeah.
And one of them was about, and this came out, I believe, in the late 70s, maybe early 80s, so long before Columbine.
Yeah.
So he has a character that goes off the rails and holds his class hostage. Right. So he's actually removed that from print. He won't allow that to be sold anymore. Out of, I think, mostly respect. It's he's made it clear that I'm not doing this because I think it's going to entice someone to do something, but I'm doing this out of respect for the families and the victims.
I can see that.
Yeah.
And Michael Moore, like, he's a political figure, controversial, whatever, but Bowling for Columbine. Yeah. And I think he quite brilliantly points out that when you look at the amount of mass shootings in the United States, objectively, it's higher than all these other countries. Yeah. Why that is, we don't know. But he's like, violent video games, violent movies, like they watch those in every other country around the world. And yet these other countries don't have that issue. There's something else that's doing that.
Exactly.
So the consumption of violent media, most people consume violent media. Yeah. And I don't think it causes anything.
Well, there you go. I kind of knew that was your answer, but I thought it's an interesting topic. I agree. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, if you're feeling amped, whether that's anger or frustration or whatever it is, you look for an outlet. And the first thing I don't think of is I'm going to mow down all the people on my street with my car. Yeah. I'm looking like, okay, can I go for a walk? Can I go for a bike ride? Do I have a punching bag? Can I go to the gym? Like, what's going to allow me to release that aggression productively? Right?
And not to pick on the Catholic Church, but arguably these priests who are repressed, they have no outlet and they end up doing horrible things, right? So
there you go. Anyway, sorry for that rabbit hole, but
that's where that line where she says that your channel like desensitizes and dehumanizes. And I think I'm a highly desensitized person because, you know, I watch a lot of horror movies for fun. So all the graphic violence I've seen, but I don't think that has dehumanized me. And the fact that I can watch something horrific as on a film, but then I'm total wimp when it comes to seeing anything that I think might be real. Yeah. Like the human mind is just capable of making those distinctions, I think.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about this film?
We could go. Well, I think I love the visual of the gun, and
I was just going to say the stomach vagina
into his hand. Well, and that too. But when you look around, you go in public anywhere, and it's essentially like people's cell phones in their hand. To me, really reminded me of the gun that was like fused into his flesh. Yeah, because though most people, cell phones are not fused into our flesh, but they almost might as well be. When you
exactly.
As a high school teacher, when you go to try to take a kid's cell phone away and they're like have the death grip, it's pretty close. So I thought that. He obviously didn't know about cell phones.
No.
Well, in 1983, if there was a cell phone, it'd be a brick. That was this big.
And did you like the practicals in that one too, where you've got all these metal?
Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, really cool. And it made me wonder. I don't think you've seen this one, but it's disturbing film. It's very short, but it's a Japanese film called Tatsuo, the Iron Man.
Oh yeah, we talked. Was that your quick cut one day?
No, but I have
heard
mentioned
talk about it. Yeah.
So it just reminded me of that because this guy is, basically turning into metal, and just that scene. I thought Cronenberg is, and I'm not suggesting he's copying anybody, but it just seems to me he's a very worldly person. He's interested in ideas. I wonder if he would have seen that film and had an inspiration about things that he could do in some of his movies, because that's what it reminded me of. But yeah, I mean, I think they actually do call it a vagina, stomach vagina in the film.
Someone meant, yeah,
I think they do.
So do you interpret that as just like the fusion of technology and human flesh? Because he puts like the gun in there and they put the Betamax tape, not the VHS.
Not a VHS.
Tape.
Yeah, Betamax.
I guess Cronenberg thought that beta, because that was the big debate, right? In the 80s, debate. Whether it be VHS or beta. And maybe he said he liked the look of the beta tape better. I read that somewhere.
That makes sense to me because the VHS
is more sci-fi looking.
Yeah, quite a bit bigger than beta. Have I mentioned this before about my experience with beta?
You have actually.
Yeah, okay. So I won't mention it again. I liked that. I also wondered if it had anything to do with the concept of rebirth. And because that seems to be underlying what they're trying to do is get rid of, the scum of society who would watch Videodrome. And so this idea is I'm putting my hand into my stomach, I'm pulling out this gun or whatever. That to me almost seems like you're creating a new
which makes sense because when he pulls the gun out, that's when it starts fusing into his flesh. So it's almost like a new evolved thing. Yeah.
So
did you have a take on the ending?
I was just going to ask you about the ending. When I went back and thought about that whole idea of being a hallucination, I did wonder about that at the end. And I'm still questioning, it's like, okay, did that really happen or is it in his head? And if it did happen, why did it happen? Like if they want him and his TV station to be the one that's going to broadcast all this stuff, why would it be okay for him to kill himself? And I was confused as well. It doesn't really matter, but when he goes to the docks and he goes on that derelict boat, and I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? Like, why doesn't he just go to some place in town or like a derelict building? Why does he go to I can't remember.
It's like a shipping container or something, isn't it?
It's a boat. Like it's a fishing boat or something. And he goes in.
But is it a shipping container on a boat?
I don't think so.
That has the TV in it?
He goes in the hold.
Okay.
And it looks like there's a homeless person, living in there. I could be mistaken. I didn't perceive it I just perceived it as a ship because that's what he steps onto.
Yeah.
I didn't see a container, but I might've missed that. So.
Yeah. I think I took more of like a cynical interpretation of the ending. Like he doesn't seem to feel very positive about this merging of technology. No. So I'm wondering like, if you go down that path to a certain point, you end up killing yourself or like it's the death of humanity. So I kind of took it as like a warning or a cynical take on our marriage with technology.
And how did you feel about the flip where Harlan and the other guy, the optometrist character, they've programmed him by putting the Betamax in and the gun and all the rest of it. And then he gets deprogrammed and reprogrammed by Bianca Oblivion.
So at that point, and this is where I struggle with these films, when you have an unreliable narrator, at that point, I just didn't even really think any of it was real. Like at that point, I just thought he's just hallucinating or he's just going mad. And this is like his inward spiral into madness or.
Yeah.
So I didn't think of it I didn't try to make a logical reason for why those things were happening. At that point, it just seemed like he was going nuts. Fair enough. Or it was like the hallucinations were just getting more crazy.
Stupidly, I was trying to make sense of it. So.
Well, no, that's very possible. I think you can interpret it multiple ways.
Yeah, and I didn't really make sense of it because I was still trying to figure out, I was like, okay, what? I mean, it wasn't confusing what happened necessarily. Knowing whether it was real or not was more confusing, but more confusing about, okay, why is this happening? Why would he be the one that does these things and so on? And then I do really like when he's with at the very end where he says, I am the video word made flesh. Long live the new flesh.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, that was just a really fun line to put in. It's just a really great, it kind of encapsulates the concept of the whole film.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. I'm a nerd, so.
No, it was really cool. And I think it's one of the more like classic lines from the film. The unreliable narrator thing though, like I think sometimes, is it kind of almost like a cheap way out, or
so you don't have to fill in all the blanks? Yeah.
Like there's films like Memento where you have an unreliable narrator, but then at the end it all makes sense. And you're like, oh, that was so cool because that like it all connects.
Yeah.
And then you have times where, oh, it's an unreliable narrator and all this crazy stuff happens. Like, good luck figuring this out. And I sometimes find that a little bit frustrating. I don't want to say lazy. Like, I think he has a lot of big ideas going on in this movie, but maybe I find it a bit frustrating when it doesn't come together. Yeah. It's just, you can't really believe what this character is doing or seeing or experiencing. And then if the film doesn't tip its hand to what
exactly
it's trying to say, then it's very hard to interpret. Like, it is just ambiguous.
Now, to play the devil's advocate, I wonder whether Cronenberg, because he's very capable of doing what you're suggesting.
For sure.
So I wonder if his idea was, okay, well, if I have this unreliable narrator, and I don't come down on one side or the other, I leave it ambiguous, then I'm arguably, he's putting his faith in the audience to make up their mind about what this means and what, so.
And if you're trying to raise questions or start a debate, then that makes sense. I think just as a viewer,
totally,
I find it more frustrating, but I get it. And I agree. Yeah. I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Yeah. So, but I agree too. It's like oftentimes, not always, sometimes the unreliable narrator and the ambiguity is a good thing. And sometimes you're frustrated because it's like, why it's not Rear Window, I don't think, but that Johnny Depp, it's a Stephen King short story, I believe, novella. And there's a scene in this movie.
Secret Window?
Secret Window, thank you. Where Johnny Depp comes down the stairs and he looks in the mirror, and the rest of the film after they go in the mirror is not real.
That's cool. Yeah.
So that's very cool, right? And so that's why I picked up on that concept of him having that brain helmet on, or whatever the heck it was.
Yeah, and I think I might have been more into that, except as you say, the hallucinations were happening before that. Yeah. And that's, otherwise we'd be like, oh yeah, so he puts the headset on and then everything
else. And it would make total sense. Yeah.
For sure.
So there you go. We've done a lot of exploring of the ideas in this film, I think.
I think we're good. That's an hour. I think we've hit the main themes and the main bits. So I don't want to wear out our welcome on this one, but if you have any thoughts or if you disagree with anything we said, which is very possible because we hit a lot of controversial topics today, feel free to let us know your thoughts in the comments.
Indeed. I'm going to end with this quote. David Cronenberg's body horror masterpiece was a box office bomb upon release, but its reputation quickly grew. Initially a cult sensation, it is now heralded as one of the finest genre films of its era.
Nice.
So there you go.
Actually, I want to end it with a different quote. Not the bees! Not the bees! Sorry.
That's okay. I wonder if they could make that 8mm on bees. Not the bees.
Actually, 8mm.
He's actually pretty good in that.
I know you don't love the frequency with which I make us watch Nicolas Cage films, but 8mm might be a cool one to do.
Possibly, yeah.
Is it horror?
That's debatable. Yeah. You'd have to look at it and see. I think it more falls. It's kind of like the Silence of the Lambs thing, right?
It's 7 and that kind of.
Yeah. And it's dark though. I'll agree with that.
Anyways, I didn't mean to start a whole episode, but all right.
So there you go. We're 2 episodes away from the end of season 7. I hope you're still with us at that point where we will give you our top 10 of the 1980s. But until then,
we'll see you in the aisles.